the Daily Caller has just written an article, The 8 Anti-Trump Narratives the Media has finally had to admit were false all along. I will tell you, I would not have a job if I had 8 things that I had said over the last couple of years that were this wrong. I would not have a job. No one would listen to me, and they would have every right not to listen to me. Listen to the narratives that the media pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed that were wrong. Trump ordered protesters to be tear gassed for a photo op.
Mm-hmm. It's an amazing one.
We now know that's true. Jim Acosta said, just an unbelievable use of military and police force to clear out Lafayette Park of protesters for a photo op. He's using the American military against the American people. That was a Biden tweet. Really? Is that what happened? Because it seems to me that we now know what happens. Even though, did you see what Jim Acosta said yesterday? He, in response to this, when, he was like, well, that Inspector General can't be trusted. You're continuing down the conspiracy theory when it is proven now that Trump had nothing to do with that. Do you know why they used the tear gas? It was the U.S. Park Service. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they were upset because they were hitting the peaceful protesters. Other than just burning down the church, were also throwing projectiles at police officers, and they were like, "Why are we allowing this to occur?" So they went out there and decided they were going to clear out the area. And after that's when, of course, the president wound up going across the street for the quote unquote.
That's
photo
not
op.
even true. That is what's being said now, but that's not true. It came from the U.S. Parks Police. The Park Police are the ones that handle all of the mall. There was a construction company that was trying to erect a safety wall between the White House and the protesters, and it had nothing to do with the protest. It was already something that was already being worked on. And they kept getting hit in the head, and they kept getting in trouble. And so they went to the park police and said, we can't go in. We can't do our job like this. So the park police decided for the safety of the president of the United States, not because it's Donald Trump, but because the park police was shoring up all security all throughout Washington, D.C., they said, clear it out so the construction workers can get in. Yeah. Hours later, after that decision was made, the White House made their decision to go over to the church.
Yeah, and they have video evidence of this. I think we're telling the same story because I heard an interview with the Inspector General himself explaining this. And it was because they wanted to do an unscalable wall. Which part of the reason they needed this wall was because of these conflicts. But I mean, they have video of administration officials learning about this. It's that clear, and they still are just denying the realities.
CNN, Jim Acosta is still denying this. All right, next one. Lab leak theory was a conspiracy. Media outlets crushed the theory, saying it's just a conspiracy and it's been fully debunked. CNN ran the headline, Trump contradicts U.S. intel community by claiming he's seen evidence of coronavirus originated in Chinese lab. The Washington Post said, was the new coronavirus accidentally released from a Wuhan lab? It's doubtful. Another one was President Trump and the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo continue to push unsubstantiated Wuhan lab theory on novel coronavirus origins. Okay, well, not true. Not true. And now the press is saying, well, it's just because Donald Trump was crazy and he said crazy things. And he just got jumbled up into all the crazy things. That's why we didn't do it. Now what are they doing? They're reporting on, the Wuhan theory that maybe it escaped a lab. Oh, that's crazy. No apologies, by the way, are attached to any of these. Trump ignored Russian bounties on U.S. soldiers. Love this conspiracy theory. Biden slammed Trump for allegedly doing nothing about the allegations that Russia put bounties on the heads of American troops. Not only has he failed to sanction or impose any kind of consequence on Russia for this egregious violation of international law, Donald Trump has continued his embarrassing campaign of deference and debasing himself before Vladimir Putin, said Joe Biden. Oh, I can't wait to find out if he is going to put sanctions on Russia for the bounty that Russia has put on. If he doesn't bring it up, oh my gosh, what does that say? Because Kamala Harris also in October was pushing this story. There was public reporting that Russia had bounties on the heads of American soldiers. You know what a bounty is? No, I don't know what a bounty is. Someone who puts a price on your head. Well, my head is very nice. How much does my head cost? And they'll pay for it if you're killed. Donald Trump had talked to at least 6 times to Vladimir Putin and never brought up the subject. Joe Biden would never do that. Oh, please put that on the list of things to watch for next week. Okay, so Trump said, I never discussed it with Putin because there's never been any credible information on it. Well, he was given a fact-check rating of 4 Pinocchios, but it looks like... Yeah, that never actually happened. New York Times has released a report noting the lack of evidence that even happened. But I'm sure Joe Biden had better information, so I expect him to bring that up with Vladimir Putin. Trump called Georgia officials to find the fraud. Well, the Washington Post had to issue a lengthy correction in March that Trump didn't tell the chief investigator of Georgia's Secretary of State office, the Frances Watson, to find the fraud, and she'd be a national hero if she did. Yeah, after 2 months after that story, they had to issue a correction in the Washington Post. Trump said white supremacists were fine people. We know this one. But for those who don't listen to talk radio, don't listen to facts, and maybe you're just starting to find them, Real Clear Politics fact-checked Trump's statement, noting his comment was taken out of context. But did you hear, even on the campaign trail, they were still saying this. What Trump had actually said at a press conference, excuse me, they didn't put themselves down as neo-Nazis. You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me. I saw the same pictures you did. You had people in that group that were there to protect the taking down to them of a very, very important statue and the renaming of the park from Robert E. Lee to another name. I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. Yeah, no apology on that one. Trump referred to illegal immigrants as animals. I don't need to go over this with you. He was talking about MS-13. Trump flat out lied when he said his campaign was wiretapped. CNN was like, "It's a flat out lie." Yeah, they issued a correction 2 years later and confirmed the former campaign manager Paul Manafort was wiretapped under a secret court order. And CNN was brave enough to note that their original report was contradictory. So, wait a minute. It wasn't a lie? It was just contradictory to the facts? Oh, they learned their lesson. And the last one here, Trump removed MLK's bust. Time magazine, the correspondent Zeke Miller, reported Trump has removed the bust of Martin Luther King Jr. out of the Oval Office. Racist! Yeah. They had to correct that because the bust was obscured by a door and an agent standing in front of it. So, why would you listen to these people? I'm only stating the facts here because you can't be this wrong. You just can't be this wrong every time, and it's in the favor of one side over the other. There's not an honest bone. I mean, let me just say, it's contradictory to the story, or it's not a lie, it's not a mistake, it's not an error, it's not something we have to apologize for. Our story was contradictory to the facts. Okay. All right. Well, let's hope you learn your lesson. Oh, no, you didn't, because now you're still furthering the tear gas in Lafayette Park. You still have somebody on your payroll that is still continuing to further the lie and the conspiracy theory. But, I mean, if you started to fire everybody that had done wrong at CNN, who would be left? I mean, you got Chris Cuomo. You got Jim Acosta. And do I really need to go into, the guy who likes touching himself in Zoom meetings that you brought back yesterday? CNN. I mean, you used to be a joke. Now you're just a national embarrassment.